What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. We have got an update that just hit the game. This is a big one, or at least it was supposed to be, the new equipment refining system in Rise of Kingdoms. This was very, very confusing. That is what I'm going to go over throughout this video, talking about how I kind of figured out my opinion on it. Of course, what my opinion is and what I recommend around this new system that they just put into the game. For anybody that's new here, my name is Fet. I'm talking about the mobile game, Rise of Kingdoms, which is an awesome game where you can build up your account, build up your armies, and fight other players in events like KVK, Ark of Osiris, and Champions of Olympia. If you guys haven't yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I am putting out all sorts of content about how I play in my account, in my alliance, and in my kingdom 1846. Alrighty, guys. So this was confusing. This took me, I don't know. I've been kind of like looking at it all day, and I've also I spent the last couple hours just kind of, I have an Excel sheet open that I ended up using as, kind of what helped me make my decision on what my final opinion is on this. But I've also just been kind of sitting here spacing out, thinking about, does this go this way, or does this make sense? Or how am I supposed to look at this and interpret this? In true Lilith fashion, guys, they dropped this update on us last night in the middle of the night for me. I'm on the East Coast of the United States, and it's been purely confusing. Like I said, true Lilith fashion, we had really no way to really know for sure how to interpret this. I think they're doing a little bit better of making it more clear, and I think the old equipment forging system is really, really confusing in itself. And the odds to proc a piece of equipment or specialize a piece of equipment are really, it's just not clear, and the odds is you don't really know what you're going to get. And I think they did a better job of kind of explaining what you're going to get when you're refining equipment, which was kind of nice. However, there is a little smokescreen in here that kind of, at first it looked okay. Then when you dive in, you start to feel like, all right, maybe this is actually terrible. And then, as I kind of came more to, I understood more, what they were actually giving us, I was able to make a decision on, okay, this might be okay. I'm still a little unsure, but I do have an official opinion, which I will go over specifically when I bring up my spreadsheets. And very, very basic, guys. I looked at this in a little bit different of perspective than John Wick did. John Wick put out a really, really good video earlier today. He put up one and then he took it down because he wanted to do more math, and he did more math. And he looked at it from a perspective of, if you forge something X amount of times, this is your chance. If you forge, or if you refine something X amount of times, or Y amount of times, this is your chance of procking a piece of equipment. I looked at it more of each chance, what your odds are, and where I wanted to find out, right? Because I knew there was going to be some sort of catch. I wanted to find out if forging made more sense up into a certain point or beyond a certain point, or if refining made more sense up into a certain point or beyond a certain point. So for me, instead of looking at it, in the perspective of, if you do X amount of forges, these are your odds. I looked at it as each time you do it, what are those odds? I want to know, is the next step worth investing in? And, or if I am dedicated and dead set on procking this piece of equipment, which route is going to be better for me? So I think, I was really confused by he did a lot of math, and it's definitely accurate, but it's funny because you can look at this differently, and the numbers can be a little bit different depending on how you want to look at it. So just wanted to put that out there. He did a great video, and it actually helped me a lot with understanding, how I was coming up with my perspective and my view on it. So tip of the hat to John Wick, guys. Go check out his channel if you have not yet. The video was just released today on his channel, and it's a really, really good one that can kind of help you understand. I hope mine can bring some extra value to you as well, because again, the perspective does matter, and it depends what your goals would be. So hopefully the combination can kind of help you decide what you want to do. Also in this video, guys, we are going to forge some legendary equipment. I did spend those coins that I got from Heroic Anthem, and the two things that I got were Let's go head down here. I got the Helm of the Conqueror, which is an infantry helmet, and it does 15% defense. That's a good one. It is a little bit more expensive. It's 90 legendary pieces of material. But the 15% defense is really, really amazing. And that's definitely something that I want to put. My Guan is a little lopsided with attack. So when I remove the current helmet, the Witch's Lineage that I have on him now, it's going to reduce the amount of attack that I'm doing, increase the defense, and make him a really, really well-balanced commander. I will have another video coming up where I go over all of my equipment specifics and what my path forward is going to be. You guys are getting a little preview tonight on this video because, as you can see, I got the Helm of the Conqueror blueprint, then I also got the Pride of the Khan blueprint as well. This one's a little more pricey than your regular legendary helmet because it is 90 legendary materials, but it does a little bit extra as well. This is going to be 15% defense. So this is really, really good. I do have a full Hellish Wasteland set, and I'm going to start building a mixed gear set. I'm not going to do a full Hellish Wasteland again. I may incorporate maybe 2 pieces. Again, I will come up with a whole video for you guys on what my path forward is going to be for the legendary equipment and for my commanders moving forward. And so now that we've kind of talked about the differing perspectives, guys, again, don't forget to go check out John Wick's video. He gives a really, really good analysis of the odds, kind of, you know, from one perspective and mine are from a different one. But let me go ahead and craft these 2 things. I don't want to, you know, I might refine some stuff or forge some stuff on this video additionally, but I want to do these first and then see what I've got, you know, lying around materials wise. My first priority here is to do the Helm of the Conqueror. And as you guys know, the old forging system hasn't changed. It's just this new refinement system that is a completely different like way to proc an item or specialize a piece of equipment in this game. So you still have the forge option or the refinement. I want that. That's actually a staple for what kind of gave me my perspective, is that they are different routes you can take to specialize a piece of equipment. They do not coincide. They do not work together. At least from how I understand it, is that refining and forging are looked at separately by Lilith and by the game. So you can't mix and match those. One is one and the other is the other, right? Either way, I have to forge this. I can't refine this because it's not forged yet. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this. I need this on my infantry commander, Guan Leo. Let's go ahead and do it, guys. 30 million gold. Woo! And no proc, right? So the first time, guys, nothing's changed. It's still 11% chance on your first forge to get a proc on a piece of equipment. Nothing there, not the end of the world. I am okay with it. And do I not have enough here? I am a little short, unfortunately, on this second one. So obviously really, really close. I only need 5 more legendaries to get this done. Let me see if I have anything that I can open to do this within this video. Not really, right? Not really. That's probably not going to take me there. Let's go back in and just check just for fun. So no, I still cannot do it. I'm still a little short, guys. I still need 5-ish, 4.5-ish legendary material pieces to craft the Pride of the Khan. So not too bad, right? With my VIP level and the VIP shop resetting this weekend, I should be able to do it by the end of the weekend. And that's nice that I'll be able to get both of those things done by the end of the weekend, just in time to kind of go over, make the video of my entire equipment picture and what I'm going to be working towards after these 2. I had obviously been saving for a while coming into KVK, and after KVK, I've been waiting to craft anything until this refinement update hit. So that's why I have so many ready, and I only need, you know, a few more days basically to get that second piece from the Heroic Anthem crafted or forged. So the next thing, guys, is I want to pull up the odds. And so if you, and again, go watch John Wick's video if you haven't. It's a really, really good basis. But his perspective is, if you forge it, just for example, I've got his up too. If you forge something 3 times, you have the total probability of a 53% chance of getting a proc within those 3 forges. Now, your chance on the 3rd forge is still 33%. But he's saying, right, the 3 times you've done it at that point, you would have had an overall chance of 53.49% chance. So that makes sense because it is cumulative. You do kind of want to think about that from that perspective, and having both is really important. But for me, I wanted to know on the third forge, what are my chances? Which is pretty straightforward from Lilith, right? You get 11% bump every time you forge something. On the third one, your third attempt is going to be 33% chance of proccing that piece. So that's kind of how I was looking at it, was, is it going to be worth it to do it, this time versus like overall? And I also wanted to look at it the way that I did because I wanted to understand if at a certain point in time, it made more sense to do one or another. And so here's my charts that I built off this. They're, again, very, very simple. I just wanted to look at it in the perspective of this time, would it be worth it to push for forging or push for refinement? And one key component here, guys, is keep in mind, like you just saw me do, you always have to forge the piece first, right? So what that leads into is when you're comparing odds, and this is why I have these two highlighted in yellow here, your second forge is actually compared to the first refinement, right? Because you already had to do a forge. So if you were to compare, forging versus refining, you would have to compare the first refinement versus the second forge. This one is where it becomes completely obvious that forging makes a lot more sense, right? Your second forge, right? Because you got to forge it. Then if you were going to refine it, it would be, the same cost. And that's another thing, guys, the cost stayed the same. So your material cost is the same. The refinement system basically negates the second half that you would lose if you dismantled a legendary piece. So the cost is the same for materials. The cost is the same for gold. And unfortunately, this is a major downfall that we all thought they might change. The cost is the same for blueprints as well. And let me just go in and show you guys legendary piece. And so I've got a blueprint of this Hellish Wasteland rifle, but look, you still have to use a blueprint. So, we thought this might make it easier to refine this stuff or just proc this stuff because the blueprints are really, really annoying to get and they really take a long time. And it really is for pay to win people to get these because really the only way you can get them is from spending gems on stuff. So that kind of sucks, but I get it. They didn't want to make it too easy for us to proc this stuff because that would create a huge gap between, the pay to win and the free to play players. So I understand that. It is something that we kind of thought might be the case, but it just simply wasn't. So when you're looking at this, guys, you have a 22% chance to proc an item on your second forge, right? Now, if you were refining, if you chose the refining route, and if you wanted to, instead of forging the second time, you wanted to refine it, your odds are half. Your chances are only 11%. And let me just kind of explain that a little bit. So, right, to refine an item, you need to get 100 of these points or whatnot. Special talent points. They don't really have a name. But you have an 11% chance to get 100. That would be the same thing as you basically on your first forge getting the proc, 11%. However, you're comparing your second forge versus your first refinement. So your chances on refinement for going proc here are 11. So they're half. They're literally half of what it would be if you forged your second time. Now, that sounds great, right? You're probably thinking what I was thinking. Oh, forging is definitely the way to go. And especially, John Wick says forging is the way to go. However, guys, this does start to swap the further you get down the line, right? And again, materials, gold, all that cost stays the same. So all we're looking at here, so my mind kind of switched at that point to, does it ever get better to refine? Like, why would this exist, if forging is just better? Like, why did they spend all this time in updating this game if forging is just better? Because it actually does get better to follow the refinement system the further you go along. Now, again, guys, my perspective was each chance. What are my odds? So your first refinement attempt, basically, your chances are 11% to go proc. However, on the next chance, they start to skyrocket. So, right, if you got a 75 on your first refinement. You got 75 points on your first refinement. You're 100% guaranteed on the second one. 100% guaranteed, right? If you got a 50, you have a 71% chance of getting the proc on your second refinement. Then if you got a 25, so if you got the least lucky as you could on the first refinement that you did, you have a 41% chance of getting that piece of equipment procced. Now guys, this is where it flops. So on forge number 3, which is compared to refinement number 2, because again, we had to forge it the first time, no matter what. You are looking at 33% if you forged it, or 41% worst case if you refined it. So think about that. You're getting a huge bump, an 8% bump right there, if you chose the refinement path. Okay, so in my head, I'm starting to think, okay, so maybe the refinement does make more sense. Well, take a look at the next level, guys. The Forge 4, you get a 44% chance on that attempt. And again, John Wick's perspective is all in all what your probability was of proc. I'm looking at just the 4th Forge versus the 3rd refinement, okay? 44% chance on the 4th Forge. The 3rd refinement, you have a 71% chance, worst case, to proc that item. Huge difference, guys, in that. And then on the 4th one, it's 100% on both, right? So if you get really unlucky in the refinement system, you have to, it's basically the same amount, same percentage, right? Your 5th forge, 100%, your 4th refinement, 100%. So what the difference is, guys, is in the 3rd and 4th forge. So you lose a ton of value if you need to forge it 3 or 4 times. Now, here's how I made my decision. My final opinion is that if you are extremely dedicated and gung-ho, you're like, I need this piece procced, you're going to want to go the refinement system. The reason for that is if you choose the forge system, right, and you get it on the 1st or the 2nd forge, hey, you win, you beat the house, way to be. But if you do not get it on the 1st or the 2nd forge, you're going to lose. It's just not better. Your odds are so much better if you picked the refinement because, guys, you have to, if you don't get it on the 2nd forge, then you have to do 3, 4, and 5. You can't switch to refinement at that point. And there's no chance of getting it on that 3rd, the 3rd refinement or that 4th. So the odds are just slightly better if you go the refinement route. And again, this wasn't a huge change. I mean, right, on the 3rd and the 4th one here, you're looking at a 41% chance for refinement and 44% chance. So on the 3rd forge, 33 versus the refinement 2, 41. So you get a bump there. And then the 4th forge versus the 3rd refinement, it's 44 for the forge and 71 for the refinement. So you're getting extra odds on those 2 attempts rather than not. So that's kind of what made me lean towards the refinement system as opposed to the forging system, because you just are going to have better odds on your second 2 attempts, where your odds are going to be better on your forging on your 2nd attempt, and that's it. So that's kind of the tough part here, is that you have better odds overall in the refinement system. Now, you can get lucky, right? If you're forging and if you get it on your first try, obviously mega luck, like that's the best way to go. You don't even have to think about any of this. But if you don't, you have to make a choice. Do I go refinement or do I go for this 2nd forge, where is your only attempt to have better odds and it pay off? You have 1 attempt basically for it to pay off. Whereas if you go the refinement, you're going to have better odds throughout, and you'll get it done over time. If you did hundreds of these, you would have a better result. So that's what made me lean towards the refinement system being better, guys. And this is kind of the rudimentary math that I used. I know that other people are looking at it like, if you did it X amount of times, what are your probabilities? I just want to know, what if I wanted to do it 2 times or 3 times or 4 times? on the fourth try, what are my odds? What's a better route? On my second try, what are the odds? What's a better route? That's how I looked at it, and that's how I wanted to kind of use it in my account. And for that reason, guys, I really believe that the refinement system is better, but not like crazy better. I mean, it's you have better odds, right? And that's over time, because your odds don't kick in until your third and fourth, or your second and your third refinement, right? So you kind of have to pay the piper a little bit, because your odds for your equipment getting procced on your first refinement are really, really low relative to the forging system, but they're much, much better on the second and the third one. So if you're dedicated and you're like, I'm going to do this piece, this is going to get specialized, then that's what you want to do. You want to play the smart game, because you're going to have to do this, one way or another. And, for having really, really high odds to get it on what would be your third and fourth forge, so you're boosting your odds essentially on the third and fourth forge significantly. Because when you get to the fifth forge, it's also the refinement for you're 100%. But your third and fourth, you're boosting your odds significantly by using the refinement system. So that's my opinion, guys, is that, if you're definitely 100% going to proc a piece, go with the refinement system, because with your odds are so much better on your second and third refinement, or what would be your third and fourth forge for that piece of equipment. Then just to kind of use this a little bit, guys, let's go ahead and let's see if I can do this. Oh yeah, because you don't need to use, obviously, for epics, because if you dismantled it, you would just get all that back. I did want to go ahead and refine this. Let's just do one for fun, right? So just the 5 million gold and then those pieces, and let's just see what happens. And I got the 75. So got pretty lucky there, guys. The chances of that happening are 30%. So, almost 1 out of 3 times you're going to get that 75. Now what this means, though, is that I am guaranteed to proc this on my second refinement, which would have been my third forge. Right? Is that making sense to everybody? That would have been this would have been my third forge. It's only going to be my second refinement, and I am guaranteed to proc this item. Boom. Done. Right? So love that. And we're good. And that's kind of why I think, you've got a decent chance to get this done within 2 refinements, which would be 3 forges, which you've got 33% chance if you forge something 3 times, and your odds are just so much higher, guys, if you refine. So I thought, this system was going to be a big change, but all it does is just slightly increase your odds to proc something if you're willing to forge it or refine it multiple times. If you know it's something that you want to get procced, go with the refinement system, boost your odds a little bit against the house, and it's going to pay off in the long run, guys. That's the new system. And again, I've been like kind of brainstorming this and really just staring off into space, like thinking about this all afternoon. If you guys have any questions about how I came to this conclusion, or just want to talk about your equipment or anything like that, drop a comment down below, guys. Let's chat about it. Drop a like on the video if this helped you kind of wrap your head around this new system, whether it's worth it or not and stuff like that. And always, guys, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. Really appreciate all the support. I love talking to you guys and putting out content about how I play and how I kind of perceive and plan to play and plan my account in this game, this wild game of Rise of Kingdoms. That is it for me tonight, guys. Until the next video, have a good one.